What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be working on the GTO once again. We're going to be upgrading our AEM methanol injection system. Currently we have a single nozzle set up on this car using the AEM controller tank and pump, which if you guys want to check that out, you can go back on the GTO playlist. We've got a whole video dedicated to installing this kit. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell so that you get notified anytime we put out a video with the GTO, the Duramax, or the Hellcat. But today's video, we're going to be upgrading that kit to a 3-nozzle setup. We're also going to be adding an extra safety so that we know if the system is not spraying for whatever reason. So let's go ahead and get through the intro and get right into today's video. Alright guys, so now that we are through the intro, we can go ahead and go over everything that we're going to be changing in today's system. Everything that we're going to be touching is going to be post-pump. Everything pump and before we're not going to be messing with. That is all going to stay the same as the previous AEM video that we did. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. So in the current system, or how the AEM system has it set up, the only thing in the line in the engine bay is this AEM injector or nozzle, whichever you prefer. But we're going to be adding all of this stuff here. We've got some extra line and loom to protect the methanol line, and then you can see we've got 3 nozzles, a couple Ys, and then the most important part, in my opinion, you've got a pressure switch here. And what this is going to do, we're going to put it in line before our nozzles, as close to them as possible, and this is going to tell us if we have pressure at the nozzles. For whatever reason, if we lose pressure, we should be notified via these LEDs. So he sent us a couple different ones. They are blue, so they should catch my eye pretty good. We can either use both of them or one of them. Not sure yet how we're going to do that. But all of this stuff that you guys see here, we got from our boy edGTuned. If you guys want to upgrade your current methanol injection system, or you want a whole new system in general, feel free to reach out to him. I will put all of his contact information in the description below. So now we're going to head over to the car. I will show you guys the game plan and how I plan to lay all of this stuff out. So let's head on over to the car. Alright guys, so now that we are over at the engine bay, I just want to give you guys a quick rundown of how this system was and how we're going to be changing it. So a couple weeks ago we did a video when we built all of our own custom intercooler piping for this thing. Well, before that, this was the steel factory pipe from ProCharger, and we had the AEM nozzle mounted directly in the bottom of it, shooting up and then getting sucked through this bend into the throttle body. But now that we have all this new stuff, we can go ahead and place everything a little bit nicer since we have nice new pipe to work with. I think we're going to start by getting our pressure switch mounted over there on the firewall so that the line comes up into it and then it'll come off into our nozzles. We're going to be placing the new nozzles, one about here, and then one directly before the ProCharger so that it can keep this guy nice and cool since we're spinning it so hard. So let's go ahead and get some of those parts over here, start laying stuff out, and getting this thing plumbed. Alright guys, so it is time to start on the install. I'm going to start with my least favorite part, which is wiring. So we're going to go ahead and get that pressure switch mounted. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be mounting it on the firewall, tucked right back up in there, because that's where our line comes up. So we can just cut the line, put it right in there, not have to mess with anything else. And then we'll have to run a ground wire for it. We're going to be using our little junction blocks up here since our battery is in the trunk. So we'll have to run a wire from that ground to the sensor, and then we'll have to run the wire from the sensor into the passenger compartment. We're going to be going through the firewall and then to our LEDs, and then we will also have to find a power source for the LEDs themselves. But before we can get that pressure sensor installed, we need to go ahead and tighten up all the fittings on that T, which includes a check valve. So this is actually a little check valve right here so that the system can't leak down into the engine with everything off. We're going to be using Teflon tape, quite a bit of it, just to make sure that we get a good seal here. When you do use this, just make sure that you don't get anything over the openings in the fittings themselves on any of them so that nothing gets in the system and clogs it up. So let's go ahead and get the PTF tape wrapped up, get these things sealed up, and then we can start throwing them on the car. Alright guys, we're gonna go ahead and cut our methanol feed line right here. Alright guys, we're gonna go ahead and put our pressure sensor and our check valve here together, making sure that the flow is going the correct way for the check valve. Alright, we've got those two lines together. I'm going to go ahead and put my little locking clip on that bottom one. Alright guys, so as you've seen, we got that pressure switch wired in back there. I ran the wire up to our ground junction up here, ran the wire across, and now we're getting ready to feed it through the firewall. I'm going to use some welding wire. I already got it through the firewall there. We'll just tape this or loop it to it and then pull it through. And then once we get the wire in here, we've got those LEDs that I showed you guys before. They're blue LEDs. I'm just trying to decide where I want to put them. I'm kind of thinking pop this bezel out, and if it's not too much of a pain, I might put one LED here, one LED over here, so that when the system is spraying, it lights the whole area up bright blue so that you can't miss it. So I'm gonna go ahead and decide on that and figure a few things out, and then we can get those lights mounted. And then once we get those mounted, we can start moving on to getting the nozzles plumbed and stuff. So let's get this figured out. Alright guys, so as you can see here, we went ahead and just popped the dash, the gauges, and the bezel out real quick. We've got the gauge cluster out of our way over here, and I have made the decision we're only going to put one LED in this bezel facing down, and then later on, if we get our gauge pod for the pillar here done, we can go ahead and put the other LED in that, or we can add it over there somewhere. But for now, we're just going to put one LED right in here, and I think what we're going to do is center it right in there somewhere. So we'll get that figured out. We'll drill a 3/8 hole for the LED and get that mounted up. Alright, I think that looks pretty good, guys. Let's go ahead and start reinstalling all this stuff. Alright guys, so we got this cluster back together, and we've got our LED right here. We do still only have the single nozzle up front, but we want to check for leaks on that pressure switch and also make sure that our LED comes on. So let's go ahead and kill the GoPro light, arm the system, and let's give this thing a test. Ready? Pretty cool. Yeah, as soon as the pressure comes up, the light comes on. So looks like we're good here. Let's go ahead and start plumbing all of the new nozzles. Alright guys, so as you've seen, we just tested all of our wiring, and the LED in the car does work. So now we're finally ready to start mounting some nozzles. I went ahead and took the actual tip out of this nozzle so that it will sit somewhat like how it's going to when we do final assemble it. I just made a couple marks here you can see, and I think that's where we're going to end up placing these things. I'm going to put one right there like that, and then we're going to put one right here like so. And then we're also going to have to do the same thing to this pipe at some point. We'll have to take that out and mark it and drill a hole for those so that we can get all three of our little nozzles in there. So let's go ahead and finish getting this pipe off, take it over to the bench, and start getting it ready to mount these things. Alright guys, so we've got that tight radius 90 off the car right here, the one that we just marked, and we've got some drill bits out. So we're going to go ahead and start drilling this thing, and I think what I'm actually going to do is drill it out and use an 1/8 inch NPT tap. I've got a stubby one here, and we're going to be drilling these out, and then I'm going to try to tap them from the inside out using a ratchet wrench. We're going to try to tap them so that we can actually take this nozzle and thread it through from the inside. And then once we get that done, we can put a bunch of Teflon tape on this and tighten it down to the nozzle itself. I just think it'll be a good way of creating a good seal, and also, why not? If we can do it, let's thread it through and then we'll tighten down to it. So let's go ahead and get set up and start drilling and tapping this thing. Alright guys, so you've seen we got that one drilled and tapped. Now we're going to do the same thing for this one. Tried to do it on that angle like I mentioned. Didn't work out 100%, but it's going to be perfectly fine. So do the same thing here. Try to drill it on the angle that we're going to want the nozzle coming through at. This one's going to be a little more difficult because it's going to be on the side. But we'll get it all set up and then we'll drill this one and then start tapping it. Alright guys, so as you've seen, we went ahead and drilled and tapped the holes for the nozzles. Now I went ahead and threw a whole bunch of Teflon tape on them. We're going to go ahead and thread them up from the bottom, tighten them down, and then we can go ahead and put the 90 on them, tighten that down, and bring it over to the car. So let's get it done. Alright guys, so I've got those on and tightened down. We're going to go ahead and just test each nozzle one at a time real quick and check for leaks. We are using the plastic misters, the blue there, so not a huge fan of that part of it, but I think it's going to work just fine. So we're going to check for leaks right now, and then we can put that pipe back on. Alright guys, so it's been a few days since we've had a chance to work on the GTO. I've been trying to get the trailer ready and the Hellcat ready so that we can try to hit a test and tune coming up next weekend. It'll be that car's first time at the track, so make sure to stay tuned for that. We've got a lot of learning to do with that car, so we're probably just going to start with some 60-foots or maybe 100-foot runs and just start chipping away at it until we get something we like and then run it out the back. So now that we've got a little bit of time, let's hop back on the GTO. I believe that we left off with putting this intake pipe back on, the charge pipe, with the 2 new methanol nozzles. So now that we've got that done, we can turn our attention to the inlet pipe for the blower itself. We're going to go ahead and decide where we want to put the nozzle on this one, and we'll go ahead and mark it. Then we'll get this pipe popped out of there, bring it over to the bench, drill it, tap it, just like we did with the other ones, and then we should be able to head back over to the car, throw it on, and start plumbing all these nozzles in. So let's go ahead and get this pipe off. Alright guys, so we got this pipe off. We've got it clamped down to the bench. We're going to go ahead and drill right here at our mark. We'll start stepping up with bigger drill bits as we go, like we've been doing. Then we'll go ahead and tap it and start getting the nozzle in. And we're going to want it facing this way because the pipe goes on like that. So we're going to want this 90 facing over here. So try to remember that when you're tightening these things down. We're going to go with something like that. Alright, we'll wipe this excess off right here, just like we did on the inside, and then we'll let this tack up. We'll bring it over to the car. We're going to check this one for leaks, make sure we're good to go, and then we'll throw this pipe back on. Can't see it, but it looks good. Looks good to me. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and start plumbing this thing. I'm going to cut this line back in here somewhere. We're going to throw a Y there so that we can run one of the lines to our nozzle at the blower, and then we'll have to run another Y so that we can feed these two nozzles at the throttle body. I just fed it up in here so that hopefully once we get the Y and some other line, we can feed it back down under here and try to tuck it away as nicely as possible. So let's go ahead and cut this back. I'm going to go ahead and throw one of our Ys on here. Then we've got some more line here that's already in some nice sheathing. So we're going to go ahead and tuck this one under. However you guys decide to run it, I'm going to run mine underneath here. Alright, we've got our other Y set up here. We're just going to go ahead and set that in our first Y. Leaving everything just a little bit long because then I'm going to pull it back through and try to hide most of this up here when we're done. Now we can go ahead and figure out how much line we're going to need to get over to the blower. Get that one done. Got that one on. We can also throw a blue clip on that one. Like I said, I'm leaving these kind of long, guys, because I'm hoping to be able to throw some line on these and pull them back through a little bit so that the Y and everything else will be hidden under the manifold. At least that's the plan right now. Alright guys, so I think what I'm going to do here is cut the rest of this coil in half because that will leave us plenty of both pieces to put one in each of these Ys to run to these nozzles, and we can go ahead and pull it back under the manifold to hide everything and then just cut them to length out here and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get this cut in half and get those things hooked up. Let's go ahead and feed this one under for this side. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect yet, guys. We're just going to do this to get everything pulled under the manifold, and then we'll cut the other two lines here for these two nozzles back once we get it figured out here. Alright guys, so we've got that thing sucked under there about as far as we're going to go under the manifold. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these back. We'll get them zip tied up out of the way as nicely as possible, and then I will give you guys a look at it. Alright guys, so we've got everything zip tied up nice and neat out of the way. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. We could have made it a little bit cleaner if we didn't have to run the line to the back of the engine bay, but we've got all three nozzles in there now. All the lines are nice and out of the way, so I'm super happy with that. Like I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you guys want to upgrade your current methanol kit or you need a whole new kit from scratch, I will leave all of his contact information in the description below so that you guys can reach out and get whatever you need taken care of. As always, guys, I appreciate you for checking out the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video with the GTO, the Duramax, or the Hellcat. Hopefully next week, with any luck, we will be at the track with the Hellcat doing some 60-foot hits. I'm super excited about that. It will be the car's first time at the track, so make sure to stay tuned for that, and we will catch you on the next one.